All right, now let's talk about the unit circle. Okay, so this is pretty important, and yes, you do have to kind of memorize it for most classes and teachers, and in university as well. So it's basically just drawn like this. It's a circle that has a radius of 1. So basically, if you notice here, 1, minus 1, 0, 1, 0, minus 1. And you can make these special triangles like the 30-degree triangle, 60-degree, and the 45-degree. So for the 30-degree triangle, basically the way it works is the first term is the cosine value, and the other term is the sine. So basically the x and the y. So cosine is the x, sine is the y. And then if they're asking you for, like, say for example sine 30, all you really have to do is look at the unit circle or draw it out and then figure out what the y value is. So in this case, just 1/2. And what you'll notice about the pattern here is that root 3 over 2, 1/2, root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2, 1/2, root 3 over 2. It's basically this and this are just switched up. So root 3 over 2, 1/2, 1/2, root 3 over 2. You can just kind of remember that 1/2 comes first, so it's like earlier. And then root 3 over 2 is like a smaller value. Or basically just switch those two. And then over here on this quadrant number 2, it's just the x values are negative. So as a result, all of the values are the same, but they're just negative. And then here everything is negative, and then here just the y is negative, or the sine is negative. So that's pretty much the idea. Just draw out maybe this quadrant on a test, and then you can derive the rest of it just based off what's negative in which quadrant, sort of thing. So then, yeah, let's try some more of the problems. If we have to figure out what sine 45 is, that's just going to be pi over 4 or root 2 over 2. Okay, and yeah, the key idea, by the way, as I mentioned before, the radius is 1 from the unit circle. If you're looking for tangent of 60, what you're going to do is use tangent is sine over cosine. So for 60-degree triangle, it will be like root 3 over 2 over the cosine value, which is 1/2. So we'll just do divided by 1 over 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by 2 over 1. So it's just going to cancel, and you'll be left with root 3. Okay, let's try these ones. Sine of 315 degrees. So sine of 315 degrees is basically here. And then that's reference angle of 45 degrees, because you can go like 360 minus 315. You'll know that it's in quadrant 4. And then you'll get 45. So then we know that in quadrant 4, the sine is negative. So it would be a root 3 or root 2 over 2. Tangent of 210. So we know the reference angle is 30 degrees, like if we did 210 minus 180, because we know it's in quadrant 3. So then we can figure out that, okay, it's just going to be the 30-degree values, and sine and cosine are both negative in quadrant 3. So then we would just do negative sine values, so like negative 1 over 2 divided by the cosine, which is negative root 3 over 2. And then remember that division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. And then the negatives cancel, and then you're left with just 1 over root 3, rationalized would be root 3 over 3. cotangent of 225, we know that the reference angle for this one would be 45 degrees. So that's just going to be negative root 2 over 2 over negative root 2 over 2, which is just 1. Okay, let's try the ones that are like, so these ones, so cosine 300, so we know 300 is in that quadrant with a reference angle of 60, and then we know that cosine is positive, so if we look up cosine 300, it's just going to be like 1/2. Cosecant is 1 over sine, so if we can figure out what sine of 30 is, we can figure this out, so that's just 30-degree reference angle. And then we know sine is 1/2 for 30. So then 1 over sine is equal to that, so then if you flip it over, it's just going to be cosecant 30 is equal to 2. And then cotangent of 45 is just 1 over tangent, which is the same thing as cosine over sine for 45 degrees. So that's going to be root 2 over 2 over root 2 over 2, which is just 1. Okay, let's try some that aren't on the unit circle. So that's going to require us to use a little bit more brain work. So negative root 3 over 4. Cosine is negative in both quadrant 2 and 3. So we're going to have a solution here and here. So then if you punch in cosine of 3 over 4, you're going to get, one sec, 41 degrees. So then it's going to be 180 minus 41 degrees to figure out the one in quadrant 2, and then 180 plus 41 to figure out the one in quadrant 3. So this one's going to be 221 degrees, and then if you go, this one would be 138 degrees. Okay? Basically just figure out where is it going to be positive or negative sort of thing. And then tangent of -1, so we know tangent is sine over cosine, and it's negative in quadrant 2 and in quadrant 4. So we're going to have a solution here, solution here. So if we punch in, we know tangent is just going to be, it's equal to 1 when it's 45 degrees, so it's going to be 180 minus 45, which is equal to, and 180 plus 45, which will be 225, and then this will just be, I think, 135. Yeah. So those are our two solutions, and this is assuming that the range and the domain is 0 to 360 or 2 pi.